3 people are dead and 1 is missing. The damage from the deluge is clear from the air. Homes have been moved. There are landslips across the entire city.
It's another pretty quiet day tomorrow, high pressure building in, but all eyes go to the tropics, the newly named tropical cyclone Gabrielle. There it is sitting there. That is the track. Of course, this is now looking more and more likely to impact the north of New Zealand going into early next week.
A national state of emergency has been declared. The government making the call after Cyclone Gabrielle decimated many parts of the North Island. 225,000 people are without power. Gabrielle's full fury causing widespread outages, downing cell phone and internet connections. Entire communities remain cut off tonight.
Cyclone Gabrielle was the costliest recorded tropical cyclone in the Southern Hemisphere's history. With wind speeds up to 165 kilometres an hour, it was the deadliest weather event to strike New Zealand in 55 years, killing 11 people and triggering an estimated 800,000 landslides in less than a week. 1,500 of those slips fell in Northland, the first region to feel Gabrielle's fury.
It was massive. It was the biggest probably storm event that we actually had that really affected all of our roads across Northland. So the amount of slips, just the flooding, so work has not stopped since.
More than $400 million of damage was done to roads in the region, and much of the Kaipara district was left underwater.
It was unbelievable what Cyclone Gabrielle actually did to Northland. It actually technically cut Northland off from the rest of the country.
Gabrielle's next stop? The already saturated Auckland, which already suffered widespread flooding just a fortnight before. On its rugged west coast, heavy wind and rain forced residents of the Muriwai township from their homes in the middle of the night. And dawn brought heartbreaking news for the tight-knit community.
I think that, on top of everything else, absolutely made this catastrophic for Muriwai community. Craig and his family, one of the firemen, lived just up the road. Dave used to live next door. You never ever want to think that your first responder or fire volunteer might not come home, but man, that was the worst nightmare for those families, but also for this community.
Muriwai was one of several of Auckland's west coast settlements left isolated and without power, and Gabrielle got worse as it went. Already sodden from a summer of storms, major roads on the Coromandel Peninsula were washed out and covered in landslides. High tide brought water over the road, and daylight revealed its debris. States of emergency were declared in all 3 of those regions, as well as Waikato and Bay of Plenty. The same was true of Tairāwhiti and Hawke's Bay, where the worst of Gabrielle was felt. One part of the country had been particularly quiet since the cyclone's arrival, and that was the North Island's east coast. Quiet in the sense that few pictures of damage or destruction were emerging from the area. That's because severe rain had flooded Transpower's Redcliffe substation, a crucial part of the coast's electrical infrastructure. Without power, cell towers shut down if they couldn't switch to diesel generators, and to make matters worse, 2 key fibre optic cables had been damaged in rising floodwaters. In short, there was no power, no communications, and no way in or out for many people along the coast. The quiet was not a sign of peace, it was a sign of deep trouble. Hawke's Bay was ground zero. Thousands were evacuated across the region, and of the 11 who lost their lives in the cyclone, 8 lived here. Some properties were swamped under 7 metres of water when the Esk Valley River burst its banks. One house was moved 600 metres by the floodwater. More than 10 bridges were damaged or destroyed, and about half the population of the town of Wairoa were caught in a flood zone. In Tairāwhiti, the northern part of the coast, the town of Tikaraka had been completely flooded, forcing people to climb up on a nearby hill in the dead of night to escape.
4 o'clock in the morning, I was soaring out of my house with my 2 kuri getting saved by my cousins. I had to swim out onto the road. The river was swift. My house filled up within like 5 minutes. The waters just came from Tikaraka. Didn't come from across the road, from Naua across the road. It all came through, channeled through Tikaraka down the main road and wiped us out, all of us.
Stories like this are common from that night all around the East Coast. Floods, evacuations, and isolation by damaged infrastructure, especially along the coastal State Highway 35. But it wasn't just the water bringing down bridges, it was the debris they carried too. Gabrielle was far from the first storm to swamp the East Coast over the years. Even as the months leading up saw destructive weather, it was Gabrielle which introduced much of New Zealand to the term slash. As the rain fell, hillsides in Tairāwhiti began to collapse, and out of the pine forest slid forestry's debris, damming rivers, smashing bridges, and crushing crops.
Those communities, let's pick one, Tokomaru Bay, another Ruatoria, have no other road access. So if there are any emergencies there tonight, people are effectively on their own. Normally an air ambulance might be able to fly in, but they can't in this weather. So those communities are as isolated as any in this country tonight, and that is really significant. It keeps happening too. State Highway 35 is constantly imperiled by rain events and the slash that comes down from the forests.
That's our chief correspondent John Campbell, who was travelling the East Coast when Gabrielle struck.
We were filming with Mike Parker when he stopped on a bridge and showed us something.
There's a log, so that's been going end for end. It's doing this, not that, it's going end for end. If it gets going again of a debris dam forming, that's what builds up and then...
It built up and up and up. Then it exploded, here and here and everywhere.
I didn't think it'd be this bad. I mean, there's trees everywhere and it's just a joke, and we've been calling out for something to happen and nothing's happened, and so what now?
A year on from that, you realise how little was done, really, to protect this land. When beside a river you see this. This wire was to stop the slash. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry, wouldn't you?
I think it signifies something really big. That basically is that it's only lip service being paid to the people of Uawa and the rest of the East Coast, because they wouldn't get away with this in anywhere else, in any other part of New Zealand.
How many more times is this going to happen on this coast?
As often as it floods.
You can watch more of his journey through Tairāwhiti in his documentary Slash, right here on YouTube or on our website. So here we are a year on, and the communities are still healing.
As you can see behind me here at Muriwai Lodge, the destruction is still evident.
It's a time for reflection, to mourn the gravity of what happened, the lives lost, and moments to thank heroes who risked their lives to save others.
Most people who were really effective didn't have a uniform. They just got on Kiwi spirit and went and helped their neighbour, and that's what Cyclone Gabrielle was about.
Coming across over Hill Road in the East Valley that morning of the 14th was pretty, like nothing you can imagine.
A war zone really, where we had, whole villages or towns being sort of evacuated to a point, and people coming off, hundreds of people coming off helicopters with just the clothes on their back, really.
In the wake of immense tragedy, there is, in some places, unspeakable beauty. Like these sunflower fields that have grown from once silt-filled farmlands in Hawke's Bay, providing hope.
It's epic, I love it. Seeing everyone come and enjoy everything and get rid of the bad year that went past.
I don't think we've ever done this before in Hawke's Bay, is go see the sunflowers.
Puts a smile on everyone's face.
We're here in Pakulwhai, where, as you can see behind me, this bridge is a bridge to nowhere, lying discarded in the river thanks to the cyclone. It's just one of the signs of the massive damage caused throughout this region.
Tireless work has gone into reopening roads to reconnect communities, with work ongoing.
This is the Takataka waterfall just behind me. We're on the Korpo Hikawai hill right now. Thousands of cubic metres have been moved from that hill to allow the waterfall to naturally make its way down. Without it, this hill would constantly give way during previous cyclones.
A year ago, this was all that was left of Coromandel's severely damaged State Highway 25A. The road was fully washed out by a major underslip. Here is the bridge built in its place, reopened for Christmas 2023, 3 months ahead of schedule. Some rural communities are still using alternative routes.
We've got our sights set on October for the Kiruru Gorge to be open, and we're really, really hopeful that that will be the case, because we can't afford to lose our staff and we can't afford to lose kids.
In the weeks following Cyclone Gabrielle, 2,100 properties were red or yellow stickered across the country, meaning they were too dangerous to enter or could only be entered for a short time.
Thousands were displaced, and a year on, people are still dealing with red and yellow stickered homes. I've covered the fallout for the last year, and the feeling on the ground is still one of frustration. People want to get on with their lives.
In the months following Gabrielle, the government would provide a categorisation system for these dwellings, the most severely affected being Category 3, where the risk of future weather events makes rebuilding non-viable. And in this category, homeowners can be bought out in a first-of-its-kind cost-sharing scheme.
The government will be supporting local councils to provide a voluntary buyout scheme for people who are in Category 3. The costs will be split between central and local government. The process to understand how that split will work is underway.
It's estimated around 700 homes have been designated Category 3. The hardest hit regions are Auckland and Hawke's Bay. Frank, a 97-year-old from the hard-hit Esk Valley, is still waiting to finalise his buyout and is desperate to move on.
When the government joined forces with the authorities, everything came to a grinding halt, and I've been waiting now for 12 months for settlement.
Forced to take out a loan for the first time in his life for a new home, just adding to his stress while he waits to repay it.
It hurts. It hurts. I'm psychologically upset now. I'm not the man I used to be. My memory's gone. My speech is different. But still, I've had a pretty good innings, so I shouldn't grumble.
While lower risk properties in Category 1 and the severely damaged Category 3 homes have been prioritised, it's left Category 2 homeowners in a kind of limbo. In November, a Hawke's Bay resident described the emotional strain.
We're still in temporary accommodation with our displacement insurance about to run out, so I'm looking at moving into our garage to live with my 3 kids.
In Muriwai, Clinton Jones' home has been classed 2A, meaning the council needs more information. But on top of all of the stress of the last year, Clinton also has terminal cancer.
We could possibly still be waiting in 2026 for a final outcome and mitigation, but I don't know if I got that time.
And as if to add insult to injury, Category 3 homeowners still waiting for buyouts in Napier and Hastings are facing the prospect of shouldering demolition costs.
Yeah, we're pretty brassed off actually, because we were told at we've had an initial meeting with the council. We have it in writing that they will demolish the house for us, and now they're doing this sneaky backtracking work.
It's estimated up to 90 properties will be caught in the change, potentially saving the Hastings District Council up to $2 million.
A year on, we haven't had a valuer here. I thought we were being patient, but if we had have yelled and screamed and got a buyout earlier on, we wouldn't be going through this.
Those lucky enough to have gone through the buyout process already are now faced with the gravity of the situation. Caroline Bell Booth was one of the first Muriwai residents to be bought out in Auckland.
Being freed of the financial uncertainty and burden is a remarkable relief, and one that I look forward to the rest of Auckland experiencing in due course. It also brings with it psychologically all the trauma that you've experienced now that your body feels safe. The sense of loss, not just of your friends, but of the community that you once had, the home that you once had, the future that you were planning for and investing in.
At Waipatu Marae in Hawke's Bay, these families have lived in close quarters for almost 12 months.
Silver lining for the cyclone for me is that I've gained so many more friends, family. I don't think I could have survived, my mental health could have survived if I didn't have those friends that come visit me.
Recently, they moved into their own temporary accommodation beside their home.
It's a bittersweet moment, but we're here, we're home.
But others continue to battle a complex system. The cost-sharing agreement pushed for a locally led recovery plan that was supported by central government, but left the buyout process as a negotiation between local councils and the homeowners, meaning the level of buyout is dependent on where you live. And as communities wrangle with the land category system, it kind of begs the question, is this a postcode lottery? With Hawke's Bay region alone made up of 4 local councils, should a disaster as large as Cyclone Gabrielle be managed at a national level? And does New Zealand need a centralised managed retreat plan to mitigate climate-related disasters in the future? Gabrielle's disruption has been as widespread as it's been long-lasting. Just listen to this scrap metal contractor explain how much clean-up work is left.
We're probably 2 years behind. And everybody says, oh, you can't be 2 years behind. It was only 12 months ago, but it's going to take us another 2 years to finally finish everybody off. But we're from, we go all the way up to Gisborne and all the way down to Northwood, Dennyberg. So it's a big area for us to clean up. And we're not just the only ones that are doing it.
Gabrielle changed countless lives, and it's also changed the course of New Zealand's future. It doesn't make sense for houses to be rebuilt in places that are becoming more and more likely to flood. The same goes for roads and people's livelihoods. And in a warming world, those places are only becoming more and more common. NIWA, the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research, estimates Gabrielle carried 30% more rain than it would have without climate change. And New Zealand's response now could set precedent for how we respond to future, possibly more severe weather events.